So in a typical course, when we stamp these out for you, Collaborate, the tool, by default, it's turned on, and it's always accessible to you in a couple of different ways. Every course that gets stamped out is done from what we call a template, and as you can see on all the buttons on the left-hand side here, this is what pretty much your course would look like, more or less, when it's first handed over to you and you haven't done anything with the course yet. On the left-hand side, we have a tool that's called Blackboard Collaborate. This is one of the ways that we can get there. But let's say let's say that this tool or this button was missing for one reason or another. This does not, maybe you inadvertently deleted it or something else happened. This doesn't mean that the tool is no longer available to you. It is also available via the course tools. If I select course tools here, this displays all the tools that exist in the course. But you'll see if I scroll down, one of the links we have here is Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. You'll notice right above it, there's one that's also called Blackboard Collaborate. That's the old one, and I would stay clear of that because it's a lot more difficult to use and it requires a lot more hoops to jump, and it's just a matter of time before that gets decommissioned. So what you really want to see is the one that's called Ultra, and that's one of the reasons why we've included a button that jumps right to it. We really want to promote the use of Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and when I click that button, when I select the button on the left-hand side that says Blackboard Collaborate, you'll see there's some kind of prefabricated information in here that's issued out in every single course. Some information about what Collaborate is. This is to benefit you and your students, and also some information on support if they want to be able to access it. I just wanted to point out where this was located. I'm hopping to a different course for the moment here, just to show you, once I access the tool here in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, we see here what was, I don't know, I kind of think of it as a lobby here. We see a link here that says course room that's unlocked and available. You can create other sessions that have a specific start time and an end time, as opposed to this course room, which is like a standing room. Every Blackboard course that's created has this. It already exists. You don't really need to ask for it or take any actions. In the case of this training, let's say I created a specific session that has a distinct start time and an end time. But every course has a standing room that, so long as the link is available to you and your students, people can access it just by clicking it and entering it here. If I were to select this link, you'll see this panel opens up on the right-hand side, and it gives me information about this room. Now, in this case, I'm enrolled in this course as a student, so I'm not seeing any information on how to configure the settings of this room here. But and this is something that we go over in the second workshop on Blackboard Collaborate 2, and the different kinds of options and settings that you can do when you create different sessions. But from a student perspective, it's going to look like this. At the very least, there will be a button that says Join Course Room. And you'll notice that there's also a button that says Dial In here. Now, what this means is people have the ability, if they want to be able to hear what's happening in the session, they can actually use their telephone number, or excuse me, their telephone, by dialing a specific telephone number and using a PIN when prompted to participate in this web conference by audio. Now, if they're on their phone, obviously they're only going to be able to hear stuff. They're not going to be able to see what's happening unless they happen to say maybe they're using their speakerphone in their office while they're viewing it on the screen. We have had instructors do that. Just be aware, I should say, or both, that this is not a toll-free number, I don't believe. So while joining Collaborate isn't necessarily something you have to pay for, the phone call itself, I think, is not in fact free. So just something to be aware of. In this case, though, we would be using this button that says Get Secure Link here. And when I select that, then it turns into Join Course Room. It's just an extra step for some reason that's created here. And if I was to select this Join Course Room, a new tab in my browser opens up, And now here's something that you might have already seen in order for you to get as far as you have. My browser is asking me if it's okay for me to use my microphone, and I'm going to say allow. Sometimes we have folks who will just, in an overabundance of caution, they'll say don't allow because they're not exactly sure what kind of permissions that they're granting their web browser. In this case, I'm going to say, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to allow using the microphone and the camera. In the bottom row here, we have 4 different buttons here. The largest of them on the far left is my status and settings. And if I were to select that, there's a couple different things I have the opportunity to access here. I have if let's say I can agree or disagree with something, and this would be in the situation where maybe you put a prompt on your screen and you ask your students, like you're doing a quick informal poll, like how many people agree with this statement, and they would have the ability to agree or disagree, and it would register on screen as to who agrees and who disagrees. In this case, Linda has agreed right now, and I know this, and it might be hard for you to see from your perspective, but in the lower right corner, I do see this little green check mark next to her, so it looks like she agreed here. At least that's what it appears like to me. And there's some abilities to give feedback and things like that as well, whether they're happy or surprised. And I've been told I tend to talk too fast sometimes. It's the New Englander in me, I guess. So somebody could tell me to slow down, I suppose, if they wanted to. I can toggle my status to say I'm away. Let's say someone stepped into my office or something, or someone was knocking on my door and I had to get to it. I could indicate that I'm away, and I would get this show this little message that would indicate that I am not currently at my keyboard. And also from here, there's more than one way I can do this, but you'll see where my name is and there's a gear right next to me. If I were to select this, this opens up a panel on the right, which I'm going to talk more about in a minute to show you what's going on in that panel here. But it's one of the ways that I can access setting up my audio and video right from here when I click this gear that says Chris Jones. Now, in addition to that button here, we have the microphone, we have the camera, and we have the raised hand that I talked about. Now, these here, depending on whether, now I have multiple web cameras and microphones and monitors that are connected to my screen here, so I can't always take for granted which camera or microphone it's going to use. And as I mentioned before, if I click that largest icon with me here and I go to this little gear that says Christopher Jones on it, that panel opens up on the right-hand side. And I'll talk more about what those buttons that are on the lower right-hand side, but for now, since at the very least what people want to use this tool for is they want to be able to speak and be heard, and maybe they want to be able to share their web camera as well. So when this panel opens up, you'll notice that this gear is in violet right here, which is the part of the panel we're using right now, which is the My Settings area. And you'll see this section here says Audio and Video Settings. Again, I have the opportunity to use my phone for audio, but what I want to do in this case is I want to set up my camera and microphone. And I'm going to select that button, and that's going to run me through this little wizard, which you probably already saw. And it says an audio test here, and there's a purple bar hopping up and down, and it says I sound great, which is very nice and complimentary. Now, I don't know for sure which microphone it's using. Let's see if I tap my headset. Yes, it's using that one. Okay, good. I'll say yes, it's working. Now it's about to try out my camera. You see the little purple circle spinning here. But again, my browser is saying, "Are you sure you want to allow this website to access your camera?" And I'm going to say, "Yeah, I'm okay with that." I'm going to say allow. And there I am. Which camera is it? Is it this one here? Yes. So excuse the lighting. So the camera, I can see myself, and it says yes, it's working. And now I'm not broadcasting yet. I'm just testing my camera. I'll say yes, it's working. And now those two tools at the bottom of center of my screen have now been enabled. So I do now have the ability to turn either of them on. There's really no sense in me turning the microphone on in that right now because there's nobody to, well, actually Linda's in this room too, but I'm not going to turn that microphone on right now, but it's telling me that I'm good to go. Whoa! I have my colleague who's she's turned on her web camera here. You'll see this is Linda. Hi, Linda. And she turned on her web camera in this other room. So if you're wondering, and just now this can get a little confusing because I just want to refresh everyone's memory that right now what we're doing is we're in one chat room that we all started in, right? But now I'm sharing a screen in a separate room here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my webcam. I'm going to click this button here. And yes, share video. So now you'll see that I don't necessarily get top billing here because we're looking at this from my perspective. And it might be difficult for you all to see, but in the bottom left corner, I can see a little picture-in-picture of myself. And there's a little eye icon that says, others can now see your video. I can't really make it larger or reposition or do anything with that. It's just how the application works. But I can see Linda here. Now, if other people were to join with their web cameras, what would happen is that they would also, that Linda's would shrink a bit, and then the screen would accommodate the additional web cameras as well. And depending on how many people there are in the room, this will dynamically change to show whoever is speaking at that time. So let's say you had 8 people in here. It's only going to display, I believe, 4 at one time. You're never going to get like the full Brady Bunch effect of everybody on your screen. But it'll have a few people on your screen, and it'll change depending on who is speaking at that time, and it'll dynamically rearrange itself as necessary. As I mentioned before, the raise hand tool is here, and if I were to click that, I've got a little number 1 next to mine indicating that someone, in this case me, has raised my hand. So if I'm the lecturer in a room, and now I see, look in the lower right corners, raised hand with a number 2, which might be difficult for other folks to see, but you'll just have to trust me that it's there. And let's see, there we go. That's a little more visible. And so now I know at least 2 people have their hands raised. So apparently I'm being very confusing, and they have questions. I referenced this panel on the right-hand side now. We went over the buttons in the bottom center here. So in this panel here, which you can open and close from the session that we're in as well, there's this purple X I can click to close it. There's this purple tab, this violet tab with a kind of like a chevron in it. And if I select that, it opens the panel. I can open and collapse it as I need to. And then we have the different icons that are listed along this panel here. The first one with the speech bubble here, that's the chat. That's the chat one right here. And you'll see it says find someone to chat with. If I were to type a message, and oh wait, I think I'm searching for something. Oh, I'm sorry. I got fooled by the interface here. I need to select everyone first. Here we go. And if I say, "Hello, everybody," my message will pop up in this chat room. In the chat room, in the session that I'm sharing. Now, Linda just responded to me in there, and she says, "Howdy." So both of us are having a little discourse here. And I see it says Linda Hubble is typing over here, so I notice she's also adding something else on here. In addition to be able to type words on here, you'll see this little smiley face icon. And Linda used a more conventional one, like a smiling face. And that can be important sometimes, especially in chat conversations. Maybe someone's making a joke, and we want to make sure that you know, maybe we add a little wink or a smile just to make sure that it's clear that we're making a joke and something might not be misconstrued. In addition to that chat icon here, you'll see there's another icon over to the right, and this says Attendees. When I select one, I'll see right now in this particular room, now remember this is a room that's separate from the room that all of us are in the actual training room. I see a list of 2 different people here, 2 participants, me and Linda. Now nobody right in here right now is enrolled as an instructor, and it occurs to me that that might be an issue. I may have to join that room here as a moderator to show you how we can promote these people from participants. Linda's on the case, I think. Linda's going to join as an instructor, and that's important because depending on your role inside Blackboard, inside Collaborate, this is going to determine what kind of privileges you have in the room. If you're a participant, basically that just means you can watch and observe what's happening in the room. You don't really have the ability to share content, or like let's say a PowerPoint. You don't have the ability to kick anybody out of the room or to mute them or something like that. So I suspect, if I had to guess, what Linda's doing is she's going to come back as a moderator, and then you'll see what a moderator can do Here we go. So she's joining as a moderator, and by default, any room you create as an instructor is going to have moderator privileges in it. And a moderator, not only can they do chat and share their screen and things like that, they also have the ability to change other people's privileges, like what she just did to me. She just promoted me from a presenter to a moderator. So so I just got a promotion here. I have an elevated level of privileges right now. And what that means is I can now do everything in here that I would like to be able to do. And you'll notice that next to each person's name here, we got these vertical bars here, or excuse me, horizontal bars. Those are displaying our connection strength. So if one of your students is saying, the video is choppy or something, this might indicate that the bit rate is low or something. I don't want to get too technical about it, but if the experience is not excellent, if it's poor, it'll say so right here. But also, you'll notice that we have these little circles to the right called attendee controls. Now, if I click this, now because she promoted me, I cannot demote her, right? I cannot make her a participant because we have equal level of privileges. But Linda's she's gonna be helpful once again and show you how this is done. Thanks, Linda. So Linda's rejoining us, and now she's just an attendee. She's a participant right here. She's Linda Hubble, and if I were to now click this circle to the right of her, you'll see I have a bunch of different choices here. Because I'm the moderator now, and I have like my role has more privileges than hers. I could send her a chat message. And by the way, one thing I'll say about sending chat messages to any individuals, do this with caution, especially if you're a participant in someone else's chat session in someone else's room, because it's too easy, in my view, to confuse when I'm sending a message to the entire group versus sending a message to an individual. And I wouldn't necessarily, let's put it this way, don't say anything to an individual that you wouldn't want the entire group to also know. Because first off, the moderators have the ability to see what individuals are saying to each other. And also, you wouldn't want to accidentally broadcast something that was only meant for an individual and saying, oh God, this guy Chris, he talks and talks, will he ever shut up? That's probably something you probably don't want to say just in case you accidentally say it to the entire group. But in addition to being able to send a chat message, you can see that I can make Linda a moderator, or I can make her a presenter. And a presenter has the ability to share content, but they can't do things like promote other people or kick them out. Moderator can share materials, but they can also promote people and kick them out. Notice that I do have this button here at the bottom that says remove from session. If I had a student, in the unlikely event I had a student in here who was being rowdy or belligerent, or let's say maybe somebody walked away from their microphone or something, and I don't know, they had some dogs that were howling in the background, and it was very distracting, we could just boot them from the session here. We do have the ability to make somebody a captioner as well, and if that were to happen, if I make Linda the captioner, this now will give her the ability to type. What will happen from her perspective, a text window opens up, and she would have the ability to type as I speak. So if you had a student that maybe had need of an ADA accommodation, and maybe you want to be able to see, now I just got a message say closed caption available for the session. Would I like to use them? I'll say yes. And what's happening is, right, Linda is typing as I speak, and I'll speak slowly because neither of us are trained to do this. But so Linda's typing like the wind here, but just know that that if Linda lowered her hand because she raised her hand, she's probably saying, why are you making me caption her? I can go and I can say, okay, Linda, you have a question? And you'll see this flag that showed up that says she raised her hand, and I can lower her hand afterwards.
And not to be confused with providing a bona fide accommodation, is because if there's a student with a hearing disability who participates, there will need to be some way of transcribing verbatim the audio that's recorded, or another person logged in as a transcriptioner, because in order to be a bona fide accommodation, it has to be 99% accurate, and somebody
Okay.
just live typing is not going to meet that requirement.
Right. So yeah, while it's better than to have nothing there, but like Linda said, it's not exactly what we need at this point, and it's there might other solutions might need to be explored depending on what the needs are for a particular student. So I mean, they're trying. So I guess B for effort. So the last button on this panel, we talked about the chat button, we talked about the attendees button, we looked briefly at this gear icon here, which shows us the different kinds of, the hardware settings. There's some other settings here that I'm not going to get into right now, but this third one here is the share content. And when I select that share content, but there's a lot of different things that we can share here, but the ones that I'm interested in talking about, at least for right now, for primary content right here, we have the share blank whiteboard, which we're about to, I'll show you how to share it here, and then I'll show you how to share applications and screens and how to share files, and then we'll take turns doing it ourselves. If I were to do the blank whiteboard initially, what's going to happen is, and I can hide this for now and go full screen here. We have a whiteboard here, and there's some rudimentary tools that are available to us here. We have an arrow tool, which allows me to actually point to things. So maybe I had, let's say, a photograph of something like with anatomy, let's say, and I want to be able to point at things. You can see the arrow that you can use this pointer, and I can point to things. You can see what I'm indicating if I'm pointing at something. The pencil tool I can write with now. I'm left-handed, but I'm right-moused, so anything I do here might not look. So I'm drawing something over here on the left side of the screen, and Linda just wrote something over on the other side here. We have the ability to change, let's make this guy a redhead. We have the ability to change colors by selecting the different items over here. Now this is, yes, exactly, Linda just typed using the type tool that she needs a stylus. And so it's not the best writing tool. I know for folks like in math and accounting and the sciences where they might be doing some handwriting, that this tool may not be as robust. Linda, by the way, click the clear button, this erase button up here. And that doesn't erase just a single item. It deletes everything on the screen. So all my beautiful art just disappeared. So without using a stylus, it's sometimes it can be a little difficult to do more advanced writing. And see, yep, it's an easy mistake to make. Linda just apologized for erasing everything in its entirety. I also have the ability to use shapes and things like that. So here's a rectangle. So that's the whiteboard, and it works I'm clearing it out. It works in conjunction with other kinds of sharing, like if I want to share a file. Now I just, in case you missed it here, I'll go back here from the share file panel. Beneath whiteboard here, we have one that says share files, and when I select that, it's saying for me to add a file. Now there's a couple that have already been added here. Now, and this works with, as it says, you can see images, PowerPoints, and PDF files. So let's see here. We have a screenshot, but it seems like there's a screenshot here. These are pictures. It remembers stuff that we have already shared on an earlier occasion. You can see there's a bunch of different files here. So this is a screenshot. This looks like an Excel document. If I click Share Now, it's sharing to the screen, and anybody who's tuned in to this particular session, they would be seeing this on their screen. It would be sharing right now, and we could go over the content on here. I'll stop sharing that for now because that was just a picture. I'll go back to sharing. In addition to that, we can share PowerPoints, and PowerPoints are a little different. I'm gonna add one right to my screen right here. Let's see, this is why I'm sharing my screen. So where is the PowerPoint? Oh, here we go. Here's a PowerPoint file we have. This is this is our service week from fall, right? So if I wanted to add a PowerPoint that I want people to be able to see, or I wanted to use it maybe to record while doing a lecture, I can just drag it if I want right into this rectangle here. And you'll see this purple spinning circle here. It's processing the PowerPoint I dropped into there. And what it's doing is it's taking all of those slides and it's turning them into a series of pictures, essentially. So like if you had some animations or transitions in your PowerPoint that you were really proud of and some special effects or some other kind of behavior in your PowerPoint, sharing your PowerPoint this way, it would strip all those kinds of visual effects away. It's still thinking about this and converting it because this wasn't the shortest PowerPoint in the world to share by the looks of it here. Let me move this out of the way. Did it add it successfully? Here we go, right here. So here it is. And I can see this says 32 slides here. So if I click this and I click that share now, the content, I see two things. Two things are happening. One, I see in this right-hand panel, I see all the slides that were in that presentation. As I mentioned, if there's any animations or transitions or stuff like that, they're not going to appear on here. So, but then when I click one of these pictures here, I'm now sharing it over in the main area, and this is the area that our students would be seeing. And you'll notice beneath this picture here, I have an arrow that if I select the arrow here, I can move forwards and backwards into this PowerPoint. Now, why is this a blank white screen? It's possible maybe we had some graphic that was supposed to like maybe appear on click. I don't remember. You know, Service Week feels like a lifetime ago. But I can also hop to a different point in the presentation by scrolling and finding a specific slide, and I want to share that. And as I mentioned, the whiteboard tool that I mentioned before, all those writing tools I talked about, they're still up here. The pointer here is like I say, oh, look, you know, Chrome is at 60.9%. I can mark things up if I want, you know, if I want to, you know, circle something, or if I want to, you know, use the rectangle to call attention to something. Linda just put a rectangle around Chrome by the looks of it, or if I want to be able to type additional information. Now, the one thing to notice is if I move backwards one slide and then I advance again to this slide, it's forgotten all the markups that I've done. So if you're really proud of what you've done here, just know that it's ephemeral. Anything that you mark up on here, it's not going to stick around. I'm going to stop sharing here, and I don't know if I pointed this out before. There's this little stop button, I guess you can call that. It's going to stop sharing the PowerPoint. So that's another way. So that's sharing files, right? And again, you could do PDFs, PowerPoints, or pictures, images. I'm going to go. I click the share files here, this backwards arrow to go to previous panel, and then we have share application screens. The share application or screen. Now in this case, Chrome is showing my three monitors here, and I am going to, like, let's say I wanted to share screen 1 over here. This is my monitor on my right. And you'll see it's going to display everything that's on my screen. That's including my file windows, and I've got my calendar here. So it's something you want to be cognizant of, right? Because you want, if you're sharing your screen, you know, it shows my items here in my dock. It shows my like alert here. If I'm sharing my screen, it's showing everything that's on my screen, and that can be, you know, that can be good sometimes depending on what you want to do. But depending on what I want to share and not share, it might not be something I want to do. There's another way you can share things. It's not just sharing a screen. I'm going to stop this for a moment. But I can share a specific application. So what you see will be limited just to that particular application. So I'll go back to share application. And you'll notice before I picked a monitor, but maybe, I don't know if I can zoom in on this or not. No, it's not going to zoom in on this. But on my left, it says my entire screen. In the middle, it says application window. If I pick application window, it's showing me every program I'm running right now, every application I'm running, which happens to be several. The one though that I want to show you right now is I thought I had Word open. There we go. Here, Word is one of my applications open. And if I click that for share, now it's going to share just what's happening in Microsoft Word here. So I realize it's probably difficult to see. So I'm going to go into Word here, and I'll zoom in a bit here. And you'll notice that it shows all the different application menus up here and things like that. So if you're trying to discuss, you know, like how to use a particular piece of software, this might be useful to you. And it even reveals like some of the menus. If I click these, and it can show my menu choices here. And if I want to be able to format this, it'll allow me to show you what's happening in the application. But notice it doesn't show what's happening in my dock anymore. It's not showing anything that's behind Microsoft Word. Well, it's showing the browser here, but that's just because I'm sharing my screen, but it's so that's a way if you just want them to see what's happening in a specific application, not your entire screen, or that's a way that you can not share everything on your screen, just a specific application. So those are basically like the three ways in which you would want to share stuff: whiteboards, files, and then share your screen or application. There's one last little part of the interface that I want to just call your attention to. It's in the top left part of my screen here, and it says Open Session Menu. When I select that, a different panel opens up on my left-hand side. Now, this is where I started my recording in the session that we started at the beginning of at 2:30 here. I could click this button to start recording, or use my phone for audio. Some of these other buttons are not, they're kind of self-evident about what they are. But then at the bottom, there's also a button here that says Leave Session. So if I wanted to leave the session, I can select that, and I will leave the session. I mean, I could just close this browser window as well. That'll have the same effect. I'm not really sure it matters which way you do it, but if you want to do it the way Collaborate intends you to do it, then you would do this Leave Session button right here. And in fact, I think I'm going to leave this session right now. And then at the very end, it asks me how my experience was, and I'll say it's very good. Sure, why not? More often than not, I just skip this step. So, okay, so then it thanks me for my feedback, and that's it. I've exited the session here. I can close that tab, and you'll see here I'm still in the Collaborate tool session right here. One thing I want to show you before I'm stopped showing my screen is that in addition to be able to access the room from here, or access other sessions that have started at a particular point in time, over here there's this menu here, this hamburger menu, is what they call them. If I were to select this, it reveals this panel here, and right now we're looking at sessions, existing sessions and future scheduled sessions if there were any. But if I had any recordings and I selected that button, if there were any recordings, recent recordings in here, they would be displayed right now. And we've had some situations where people have recorded something, maybe they recorded something a few months ago, and they go in here and they see the recordings that they made were gone, and they panic because you'll see it says no recordings found within the past 30 days. For whatever reason, the default of Blackboard is only to display the recordings from the past month or so. If you've made them older than that, they're still there. They've just hidden them from you, and I've fielded more than one question from folks who were concerned about that all this work they did just went away. So instead, I could filter by recordings in a range. So let's, I'm going to do recordings in a range. This time, I'll do it correctly the first time, hopefully. And it's thinking, here's a whole bunch of sessions here of different recordings we've done in different workshops. A lot of them, I think, are test recordings. You'll see some of them are just a few minutes long. Some of them are a full hour long, like our VoiceThread webinar, in which my colleague delivered this webinar on how to use VoiceThread on October 9th. I'm not going to get into really what you can do with these recordings, but just know that once you have these recordings, you do have the ability, you can watch them and you can download them if you've enabled that, and you can share them by copying links. I'll go back to the hamburger menu here, and I'll go back to my sessions.